Excuse me. We're finally getting real summer here. It's warming up.
Longest day today.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
And shortest stay here.
Right. So that means it won't get dark here until after 10 o'clock in the evening, probably 10:30.
Right. I imagine.
Sarah, your mic is muted. We can't hear you. Ajahn is already. Yes.
Sorry about that. Hello, everyone. Sawadee ka, Ajahn. I was speaking before, but I didn't turn it on.
สวัสดีค่ะทุกคน
Sawadee ka.
สวัสดีครับอาจารย์ครับ
สวัสดีครับ
Savadikap, Ajahn.
Morning everybody. Good morning everybody.
Shall we start คุณแอนค่ะสวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะท่านอาจารย์ค่ะ Does anybody have something to start with today? Jonathan, during the week, there was an interesting discussion on the DSG site about conditions for, let's use seeing as an example. And there was one of the conditions listed in something you had found in the commentaries was visible object for sure, Jaku Pasada for sure, light, Haloka. Did we ever figure that out? What I guess my question is to you or Ajahn or anyone is, what is light?
You have to give any name to anything when it's there. See,
No, we don't.
ready. Light is not understanding that which is now appearing as it is, but there is thinking about the word and the term for it.
Okay.
So there is always some idea about that which is now appearing all the time, only idea, thinking about it, because not directly experience the truth of it. That how can it be known or experienced? See, know nothing about anything, anytime at all. Because the truth is there, without considering about the truth of it, there must be the idea of something, as usual from eons and eons ago. Thinking just about the word light, what is it? But it's now seen, right? No matter
Yes.
we call it light or color or whatever, it's there, which can be seen. But that which can be seen cannot be anything at all, because it's only so very short, very brief, very tiny, because it's only that which impinges on the eyebase. To know the truth is better than just thinking about the word.
Mhm.
Otherwise, there is the idea. I am thinking, I'm beginning to understand the meaning of light or something like that. And it keeps on going on and on and on, from this word to another word, from that which appears to the other, which is thought about, and so on, all day, all life, not understanding that actually, no understanding the truth of that which is there at all, no matter at what moment. Even thinking right now is not known as what is there. The truth is covered up eons and eons ago. So even at moment of thinking about light, it is just like thinking about anything. The word, try to find out, no attention to that which is now appearing, that can it be known as it is? Because before hearing the teachings, no understanding about it at all, as what is the truth, the absolute truth of it. How come to be that moment of seeing and that which is seen? No understanding, no even idea about it. If it's
I'd
just
like,
like this all the time, on and on and on, it's only the word that we know, not the truth of that which is now appearing. So instead of thinking about what word, what does it mean, the word light, is it true or not, what is now appearing, no matter it's called in any language, any word, it's there to be known, as it's only the moment of seeing is there. The other moment when there's no seeing, it's not there. And the truth is that when it's there, it's this condition to arise, to be there, to be known, to be experienced. There must be conditions for whatever arises, unknown. Only very brief moment and then gone all the time, from moment to moment, covered up. So from the very beginning, there can be the understanding of the truth. Actually, how much ignorance is there accumulated in the past and now and next life. Keep on like this, more and more and more. So it is covered up in samsara until there's the understanding of what should be understood as it is, the truth, the absolute truth of whatever appears, not just only the word, but the truth is that it's different from other moment. And what condition the other moment, which is not that which is seen, but that which is heard, and the experiences experience that. Otherwise, how can anything appear at all? That's why even there is the reality which just arises to experience is not known as it is. It is I or this person and that person, all the idea thinking about that which appears with ignorance. So the truth is that if there is the realization that actually what is there in samsara, ignorance, we talk about paticca, ignorance, conditions such and such. But what about this moment of ignorance? It's there. Keep on condition other thing from moment to moment all the time. So the truth is that ignorance is so much that it covers up everything from moment to moment until there is the hearing of the words of truth from the enlightened one to begin to consider the truth. This is the beginning of understanding the world, because without that which can experience, can there be world? Not at all. Even right now, it's that which experiences all the time. Seeing, hearing, thinking, all in ourselves. But there are moments of experiencing by conditions, different object at different moment, not together at all. So I don't mind about the word light, because whatever is there, no word. But the truth is that it's a reality. It's so real when it's seen or experienced. Only that very moment, at the moment, it's not there anymore. And even right now, what appears at moment of seeing, so many things around, is that true? Can it experience everything at once, together, right now? Impossible. And the absolute truth is that the experiencing, the reality which can experience, arises to experience only one moment, only one object at a time. And when we talk about that which is seen, we are talking about now. It does not appear as it is one very tiny, very brief moment of that which appears. It cannot be anything at all. But the arising and falling away of the moment of seeing is there so much that it can condition what is seen as shape and form differently. So there is the sanya, marks and remember, the reality. Another reality right now is not far away from this moment at all. Right now, it takes that which is seen any moment as something different shape and form, different things. Even while listening to this, nobody can stop the way it is. Very so short, arising and falling away continuously in succession. So what appears is with different shape and form as so many things around. See, not only one at all. So how fast the way it is, that which arises and experience, so very short, just arise and falls away all the time. No understanding of anything in the day or in life, from life to life at all. So begin to understand the truth, that the truth can be directly experienced, because there's the one who had developed great parami to experience it and thought about what he had experienced to the other to understand the truth. So what about to be truthful to this moment? How much understanding of that which is now appearing. And this is the beginning of letting go ignorance, little by little, until there's no attachment to it as something of self. But there are so many unwholesome realities, kilesa, that it cannot be eradicated all at once. But it takes quite a long time to be so truthful to the truth of each moment. What is there? Only the word we think about after hearing about it, until there's more and more confidence, firmer and firmer about no one and no self. This is the beginning to understand that which is now as it is, so close this moment. So no matter you use the word light or any word, it's there now, seen, arising and falling away by conditions, the way it is. It does not belong to anyone. It cannot be taken for anything because it's conditioned to arise and fall away in split seconds. No more sunyata and anatta. So true, because nobody can change the way it is, the absolute nature of reality. That which can experience arises to experience, and that which cannot experience at all arises and is experienced from moment to moment, right now.
Thank you, Ajahn. That's very clear that it's not the words that matter, which I knew, and yet there's such a tendency when we read about new words or new ways of describing things, which is what we were talking about a bit on the DSG website this week. But it's very clear, and thank you that that doesn't always matter. It's it's this moment, what is appearing now.
Because
Yes,
we see that no matter how much we learn about it, but no understanding of the truth of it at this very moment, what for? Just to understand the truth from the word that Buddha taught about the truth of it will lead to a little more understanding from moment to moment, a little more moment of letting go of that which is there all day, all time. Ignorance.
yes, I think we tend to think that it's so important to find out the meaning of the word, but actually it just becomes another story, another Dhamma story, instead of understanding what appears. And what appears now, what is seen now, is different from what was seen in the middle of the night with one's eyes closed when one woke up for a moment and it was dark. So now, because there is what is seen is light, so there is the making out of shapes and forms and thinking about different people, different things, different objects. Whereas in the night, when one's eyes are closed and it's dark, visible object appears, but no light, no making out of different shapes and forms or different colors or different, and no thinking about different objects as a result of making out those different shapes and forms. So no matter then or no matter now, it's just what is seen, but what is seen is different at different moments. And it depends on factors such as whether there's any light appearing at this moment or not. So it's always back to now.
Yeah, so the visible object, then it's always only visible object, just visible object.
It's only visible object, and it doesn't matter what it's called, whether it's called visible object or color or light, just that which is seen at this moment. And what is seen now is just visible object. What is seen in the middle of the night when one's eyes are closed but one's awake is still just visible object. But each visible object falls away instantly and is not the same. So the reason that there is making out of different colors, different shapes and forms now is different from then, but it's still just visible object that's seen.
Object. And the nimitta, yes, is different.
Yeah.
It leads to different thinking. Yeah. Thank you.
In one of our discussions, I remember in Vietnam for the whole day, instead of using visible object, Ajahn just used the word light that is seen. It doesn't matter what the word is. The point is the understanding of what appears right now. Otherwise, we get lost in the term and the definition and forget about just understanding what appears.
Well, that's what arose after
Yeah.
seeing the discussion on DSG this week.
But we can consider the reason why sometimes light is mentioned and sometimes not.
Yes.
And visible object now is different from another visible object.
So there can be the understanding that hearing the truth is the beginning to understand the truth of that which is now appearing, no matter in the dark or light. Like Sarah just said, at night when we wake up, and when we wake up, open one's eyes, it's there, no matter darkness or dim or whatever. But the understanding is exactly the same. Because when there's no hearing about the truth of that reality, no understanding at all. It's I wake up, I see the dim light and so on, or darkness. But the development of understanding is understanding the truth of each word, which means each reality that we are talking about. For example, that which is seen. When there's no understanding, no matter dark or night, no understanding. But when there is understanding, no matter it's in the dark at night or now, this moment, that's why there can be the beginning of understanding, the difference between understanding and no understanding and ignorance about that which appears. But the beginning is thinking about what is there by conditions to begin to develop the understanding of that which is there as just the experiencing. See, we use this word and has no doubt about the meaning of it. But now at this moment, seeing experiences, it arises and experiences. As thinking, it arises and experience. And feeling, no matter what is touched, hot or cold, it's the experiencing. So the experiencing is that which is a reality, a dhatu element, which is conditioned to arise. Nobody can stop as long as there are conditions for its rising. It arises and just experience and then fall away in split seconds. This is the truth. To let go, try to know it, but understanding it at moment when it's there. So when we talk about this, it can be conditioned for any moment in the dark or light to understand that which appears. This is a way to let go everything which has no thinking about it at all without hearing the teachings and understanding better and better, have more confidence of the truth that that is object to understand because it's so true at moment when it is there right now. See, at moment when there is that which appears to see, and the seeing which experiences that anywhere, anytime, no choice, depending on condition. No one can choose because actually there's no one. Even what is the object is conditioned. See, to condition that which arises and see only that object by conditions. We learn to understand the Dhamma and the Vipaka and so on, but it's so real, but it's covered up because it's so natural as it is ignorance which cannot understand the truth. That's why learning to understand the truth is right understanding, which is no one. It does not belong to anyone, but it is another reality, which is different from ignorance. Because when we talk about ignorance, at this moment when there's no understanding, see, we don't have to find out from the book the meaning or the way it's explained, because from hearing again and again and again, It conditioned the understanding for what? To understand that which is now appearing. And understanding that when there is the beginning of understanding, even the meaning of the word of truth, it conditioned later, we don't know when, to understand what is there by conditions, no selection. It can be feeling right now. It can be thinking right now. It can be hardness right now. So sudden, so natural. But when it is not clear enough yet, the popping up of that does not appear to know that from nothing is there and then gone. That's why just learn to understand. No one there at all. And understanding cannot be conditioned by the I or the self, trying so hard to know it or understanding it. Impossible. But to consider each word which represents the meaning of the truth of that which is now appearing. It takes quite a long time because thinking about ignorance eons and eons and eons ago, how can there be a certain understanding of that as no one, but it is a moment of that which arises to experience an object. And this is a very subtle path which Buddha taught, as it is the Ariya Satya, the fourth noble truth. Because ignorance take it for something like trying so hard to do this or that. And at that moment, if there's no understanding of lopa, which conditions such moment, how can there be the eradication of lopa? Because it's not seen, the second truth. That's why only wisely considering of whatever is heard little by little about what is there now all the time. Condition moment of understanding directly what is there as it is taught and understood from time to time. It's a long time, long way to understand the truth because it's so very deep, very profound. Each word of the Buddha is from his enlightenment. So there can be moment of experiencing the truth from the characteristic which is different, the nama, that which experiences, and that which does not experience anything. But it's not thinking. But the truth is that, for example, hardness, see, we know or we learn that hardness cannot experience anything, but there must be a reality which experiences it. So it appears as itself hard, only hardness, that's all. See, that's why from understanding intellectually the prayati, only that can condition the moment of patipatti, at moment when it's there, directly understanding an object which hasn't been the object of understanding yet right now. But when it's there, no doubt about what is there, what is meant by samadhi or sammasamadhi, the path, the eightfold path. So the path is the moment which conditioned by the understanding of the truth of the reality which is now appearing. Now, see the word now, what does it mean? Only a reality is there as object of direct awareness. Even Panya is not strong enough, but it's the beginning to understand what is meant by the way to develop understanding, to really understanding the truth of it, as we have heard, until all the teachings of the Buddha about that, about such reality, can appear at that very moment, as no one know me at all.
Dan, so far I've understood that knowledge of the path, as we say, the 3 rounds of the Four Noble Truth, one of which is the path, is the understanding that understanding itself is the path. But from what I was just from what you just said, it sounded like there's also, when the understanding has been developed, not only understanding that understanding about understanding, but also each factor of the noble truth, the eightfold path. So is that what you were just saying, that once the understanding is enough, one understands why Samma Samadhi, why Samma,
Kitty.
and all those, right? Is that what you were saying?
You are talking about the 3 rounds of Ariya Satya, right? So now at this moment, it's the first round about Ariya Satya, right?
Right.
Only Pariyatti,
Yes.
not Patipati yet,
Oh,
right?
yes, Ajahn.
Cool. So we understand the first round so well, otherwise it cannot condition the moment of directly understanding what is there now. No understanding what is the moment of understanding directly mean. See, because when we're talking about seeing, okay, it's that which experiences that which is seen. But it's not the understanding of seeing itself. It's only talking about intellectual understanding about seeing. So it's not Kitayana, right?
Yes, Ajahn. It's not Kijayana.
But it has to be Satyayana, that what is Panya, the moment of directly experience with understanding. And how come that moment of understanding that which is seeing? If there is no intellectual understanding, the Satyayana of the four Ariya Satya first, that it has to be understanding that which arises and falls away, the first Ariya Satya, Dukkha Ariya Satya. So we have to understand the difference between Satyayana, Kitayana, and Katayana.
Hmm.
So now we are talking about, for example, touching and that which is touch, hardness, okay? But it's only the story. See, hardness is exactly the same. So it depends on panya to understand at that very moment, no thought about other thing else at all. Even thinking about that, because the moment of direct awareness with direct understanding is so short. And when it's the very beginning, how can there be clear understanding of that? But it's the beginning, like the shadow of reality, which arises and falls away. But that which experiences and that which is experienced hardness, even right now, is there any understanding of anyone, whether it is that which experiences or that which is hard? At moment of touching now, see, and from the first satya, the satya of the noble truth, the first round, there is no idea to get away from trying to understand whatever one thinks. But what is there now? We don't have to think, it's there already. It shows that no one can make it arise because it has arisen and it's gone, no one knows. That's why the absolute truth is the first Arya Satya. But without understanding the difference between that which experiences and that which cannot experience, can there be the moment of no one? Only that which arises is now experiencing an object, different object, so many objects, not all at once, but only one at a time. So it's a moment of letting go wrong idea, which has been accumulated quite long time ago, to understand the first round of the Arya Satya, the intellectual understanding about what is that which is Dukkha Satya, anything which appears because it has arisen and it following unknown, to be known, little by little. But as long as it's not known as it's not self, how can there be the enlightenment of the truth of it, which is deeper? It arises and falls away as nimitta. No word, no thought about nimitta, but only one reality at a time. And one reality from what we study by procession of experiencing an object. It cannot be just one moment of seeing, but many moments of seeing, which perform the function of seeing as nimitta of seeing. To understand the difference between the first round of Arya Satya and the second round and the third round. Not take the first one as the second or the third.
Thank you, Ajahn.
So true to the teachings of the Buddha. Otherwise, we cannot imagine and we cannot understand how wise and how panya Buddha had beyond anyone in the world, no matter what world. What he taught us is only 2 or 3 leaves in his hand, while his panya is like the leaves in the forest. Even just this word, one can begin to understand how great wisdom is there. So the most precious moment in life is the moment of understanding the truth. Even very little, it will lead to more and more understanding, to realize the truth that Buddha had realized.
Have something to talk about if we can change the topic. I can wait also.
Please go on.
Thank you, Jan. Well, now that this conversation is reminding me about something that I talked with a friend, an old friend from my hometown 2 days ago. We chatted. We had some online chats, and he sent me a picture of the name of a place that another person we know set up, and the name of that place was Sati Meditation and Astrology. And Sarah and John are laughing a lot. And so he said, "This is and this person who's, I mean, this place, Sati meditation and astrology, I don't know if it's like a real place or if it's just like an Instagram page or something. Because I haven't seen that person like for 10 years or something. So when my friend sent me that, I don't know, I mean, we started talking, I don't know exactly what, and there was a point when I said, well, you know, Sati is not something that you can develop because it's a mental factor, it's a Cetasika, and what else did I say? Something like that, right? And then he became very, the friend I was chatting with, he became very curious about it. He told me to talk a little bit more about what Sati was, and then we ended up, part of the conversation was how Bhikkhu Bodhi says that Sati means crossing the street. I explained him that that cannot be Sati because Sati is a Kusala factor, which if it means that you have Sati, that you need Sati to cross the street, that means that every time you cross the street, you are developing Kusala mental states, right? Something like that is what I said. And then we continued with the conversation, and then he told me something that he had heard some teachers say, that Sati can be weak or strong. And I asked him to explain that a little bit more, and what and I say, well, what do you mean by Sati? Aren't you confusing it with maybe concentration or something like that? And then I said something that I'm not sure if what I said was correct, that that concentration was also a Cetasika, but it was not precisely Kusala or Akusala, because it arises with every Chitta, right? And so concentration would be Kusala or Akusala depending on the factors associated with it. That's what I said. I'm not completely sure. Maybe what I said was right, seeing now Jonathan say. And then we continue. Then he was talking about something about, he was making a lot of emphasis on Anapanasati, like saying that Anapanasati and the monk's life was completely related. I didn't understand why he was saying that precisely. I tried to talk a little bit, but he kind of couldn't listen to what I was saying. He was obsessed with the fact that the monk life and Anapanasati came together, like in the same package, right? And then 2 days later, and then I think we ended the conversation. And then 2 days later, he sent me a picture of a page of a book, which I have it right here, which is the Anapanasanyutta, which in English is Connected Discourses on Breathing, right? So he sent me the picture of the first page, and then he underlined a few things which they are related with our conversation, right? So the sutta starts like it's saying, right? It says, at Sawati, there the blessed one said this: bhikkhus, one thing, when developed and cultivated, is of great fruit and benefit. So in this sentence, he underlined developed and cultivated, right? Because actually part of our conversation was about this thing which I said that mindfulness couldn't be developed nor cultivated, because it was a mental factor, also because there's no one who can it depends on conditions, not on the power of self and things like that. I was trying to explain him, right? So here he underlines develop and cultivated, because I made a lot of emphasis in the fact that you cannot develop anything, right? And then I also told him that that there's no instance in the Tipitaka. I was just repeating things that I heard. I don't know if I heard them correctly or not. I was just telling him that there's no instance, because I think I have heard that from Ajahn, that there's no instance in the Tipitaka where the Buddha admonishes his disciples to go and meditate, right? And there's not, and I said, I think I also said something about the cross-legged position, which is only exists in the statues or something like that, is what I said. So here in the sutta, there's another sentence that says, bhikkhus, having gone to the forest, to the foot of a tree, or to an empty hut, sits down. Having folded his legs crosswise, straightened his body and set up mindfulness in front of him, just mindful he breathes in, mindful he breathes out. So here he underlines legs crosswise, right? And then there's another paragraph in which it says, breathing in long, he knows. I breathe in long. And this is his last underlining, which is he underlines he knows. I don't know why precisely he underlines he knows, but probably because of the he, implying that there's a self, or that they're talking about somebody who is breathing. I don't know if that's the reason why he underlines it. But the thing is that he sends me this picture with underlying developed and cultivated, legs crosswise, and he knows, right? So I don't really know what to answer him. I don't know what to say about developing, and I don't know what to say about sitting down with your legs crosswise, right? So if anybody has any comments about it or want to share something, I'll be happy to hear, to listen.
I think that when we talk about anyone, about the something, what is the purpose of talking about it? So we can ask that person who we will talk about, what do you want to know or understand? Suppose you have that lady and I'm the one who talked with her. What would you like to understand or to know about it? While we are talking about that, see? So what's that we are talking about in order to know or understand it? Is that the purpose of talking about it or just for fun or whatever? So the point of talking about that, what is that? And what is the purpose of talking about that? I think that anyone can have the question and answer while we are talking about something to really understand. Otherwise, how can one know how much but understand or no understanding at all? So why do we talk about this? What for? To understand or to do? Can you pretend to be her? Or the way you'd like to talk about as I'm talking with you? What is the purpose of talking about anything?
Um, Well, my main purpose is to understand more, because
Okay,
I think
about what?
about the teaching, about what the Buddha said.
Okay, who's the Buddha?
The Buddha is,
Why are you interested in talking about his word or him?
I am interested in the Buddha's words because I think he's a person who had very deep understanding.
So we listen to his word, right? His word, not our own idea, but his word, right?
Right.
Okay, what word? So that we can understand that he taught about this word, that we can understand.
Well, for example, cross-legged.
Okay, anyone
Crossing the
can do
leg.
that. Buddha didn't have to teach anyone to do that, right?
Well, he admonished, in this sutta, he admonished the monks to cross their legs and sit
But
up
you see,
straight.
anyone can do. So is it the word of the Buddha to teach anyone to sit like that? Or what for? And is it not the tradition or the very, very, what can I say, good for health to sit that way, the best way to sit? And it is, I think, Indian traditional sitting, because the Thai sit another way. And while someone like the Thai sit different from that, can there be the understanding? Or it has to be only that which can bring about the understanding. Let her begin to think over, to have wise thinking, wise considering, to be her own understanding, her own panya. The way to help the other is to understand a person, how much or how less understanding or wise thinking or unwise thinking. So she learned to begin to be wise, to think, to understand the truth by herself. Otherwise, it's the person who just talk understanding, not the other who is listening. So to be good friend is to help the other to have their own understanding. So let begin to be thoughtful, careful thinking about everything. Otherwise, there cannot be right understanding at all. Just follow the word. Cross leg, just follow that. But what for? It's very healthy position, I think, that it's traditional sitting for the Indian, not for
It's
the
like it's like Roti, if you go to a yoga class, people naturally sit cross-legged. But if you go to a nursing home, people can't. They're sitting in armchairs. And so the monks at that time, no chairs. So how did they sit? Just sit cross-legged naturally. So, and where did they sit? They were in the forest, not in the
But
city.
if that's the way they naturally sit, why should you mention it? Why should you make an emphasis on it? Like
It's
saying,
like
sit cross-legged, straighten your back, and be mindful of your breath. That's what he's basically saying here. So why should
he's describing the way they are sitting and the place, like if he was teaching in the foundation, he'd say, okay, make yourself comfortable on your chairs in this room in the city. Now let's discuss about realities, anytime, any place. So he's just describing where they are at that time and how they're sitting at that time. He's not saying if you cannot sit cross-legged because you're sick or injured, then sati cannot develop. He's not saying that. He's just saying, now sitting cross-legged in the empty place, what are the realities? What about sati now?
He's not saying that, but he's also not saying that any way you sit, you can develop mindfulness.
So that's why there has to be the understanding of what sati is, what the reality of sati is and when sati arises and how it is developed, how it is cultivated. Otherwise, one reads the whole sutta thinking, I must sit cross-legged, I must be in the forest, I must cultivate sati, no understanding of anything from the beginning. So that's why sati
to
has
start
to be
with,
understood.
I don't know if the translation, the word mindfulness here means sati. I'm not sure, because in that case, I don't know what means.
I think, Roti, that what you are reading here is a description and not an admonition, first point, because it's all in the third person. It isn't saying monks do this, do that. It is saying that certain wholesome qualities can be developed. And here, the first part of the sutta of the monk who is gone to the forest, right? Gone already. So here it is describing the monk who has already developed mindfulness of breathing to a considerable degree. It is not a description, it is not a statement of how one begins to develop mindfulness of breathing.
Why does having gone to the forest imply that you have already developed mindfulness?
I didn't say it does imply that, but I'm saying that he's talking about the monk who has already developed mindfulness of breathing. Because this person is able to sit with his legs crosswise, straight body, set up mindfulness in front of him, just mindful, breathes in, breathes out. So this is all kusala citta, already developed.
You mean
it
that
is not.
Your back?
Sorry.
Who
can?
That is product of kusala citta, or what do you mean? That the straight back is product of kusala citta, or what do you mean?
Well, as Ajahn has explained, for monks in those days, that was the common practice. To sit like that, and those who had developed mindfulness of breathing, maybe even to a level of jhana, that's how it was done. It doesn't mean that kusala can only be developed in that position, or that there can only be mindfulness of breathing in that particular position.
John,
But
if I may interject, Roti, what I understand about that sitting position and having your back straightened and all, it's probably something that's taught in yoga also. It's a stable position. So those monks were actually, practicing jhana or whatever, where they had to sit in the same position for a long, long time. So that was something that's to do with a more stable position. So it was something they were doing already. That's why the Buddha was describing what they were doing in detail.
And they were doing that because the Buddha admonished them to do it?
It was their habit already, even before they met the Buddha, is their habit to sit like that, just as Ajahn said, for Thais, even before they met Ajahn or listened to the Buddha's teachings, it was their habit to sit on the ground with their legs out to one side, or for Westerners, it was their habit to sit in chairs. So it was their habit to sit like that.
Well, but there's wrong habits and good habits.
What makes it wrong or right in the sense of developing kusala is not like the posture, but the understanding and the development of sati, which is cultivated but not by a self.
So the wrong habit, actually, Roti, the wrong habit was that those monks did whatever they did with the idea of self. And here the Buddha was reminding them or even pointing out to them that it's all what was happening at that time were just dhammas, not self.
Right.
And on the general question of developing wholesome qualities, Roti, which was another point you you raised,
Right.
what we have said here is that wholesome qualities can be developed, but not by it's not a case of a person doing the developing or me doing the developing. Wholesome qualities develop by their arising and being the object of understanding. So all wholesome qualities can develop, but
Can sati be developed, or sati arises when the right conditions are there?
Sati arises, as we know, with every moment of kusala. So when samatha is being developed, for example, sati is also being developed. And
yeah, a little bit. My question is a little bit like, is sati developed, or the understanding which brings up the right conditions for sati is what is developed? A little bit like, I don't know if it's a tricky question or something.
No, I think that is generally how I understand it, but I'd be interested to hear Ajahn speak further on this, because as I understand it, sati is developed as other kinds of kusala are developed. So as panya is developed, so sati develops also. But
or the question can be a little bit like, is sati what is developed, or the frequency of the arising of sati is what is developed?
if sati is the object of understanding, sati can be the object of understanding also, right? Just like any conditioned Dhamma can be the object of understanding. So if sati is known to panya, it develops in that respect. But generally, when, for example, there's understanding of visible object, the panya is developed and the sati is developed, even though the sati is not itself the object of understanding at that moment. The visible object is the object of understanding, but by that arising of panya, the panya and the sati are being developed.
All the past factors have to develop together. So if sati doesn't develop, then panya can't develop. Sati is conditioned for panya. So they have to develop together, along with sama vayama and sama samadhi. All the factors develop together. They have to be cultivated. This is the meaning of bhavana, the development of understanding, and the other factors that have to be developed and cultivated together, but no one who develops, no one who cultivates.
I'm not sure if this is relevant, but sati is a sankhara khanda. So we know that it accumulates in tendency. Yeah.
And when there's a moment of awareness and understanding, all the path factors then develop. They don't have to individually be the object of understanding in order to develop. But again, it's not me who develops understanding. It's understanding that develops by conditions. And those conditions are what we talk about a lot here, because the Buddha emphasized the importance of hearing a correct description of the way things are as being a condition for there to be understanding of the way things are, not by undertaking a practice or not by trying to second guess what should be the object of understanding now, not by trying to focus on things, but just by conditions. So I think everything that we read in that Anapanasati Sutta, and also, by the way, a similar passage appears in the Satipatthana Sutta in the section on Kayanupasana, and it's the first item mentioned in that section. Similar wording, but it starts off by saying there is the case where a monk gone to the forest, so and so. So it's just talking about a particular situation. And only the monk who has already developed anapanasati as an object of samatha would be able to sit cross-legged like that and be mindful in the samatha sense of the in and out breathing, as that is what he's skillful at. But then the sutta goes on to explain in more detail how awareness and understanding of the insight kind is developed by there being understanding of realities arising and falling away. A lot of people can't get beyond the first, the opening few paragraphs. And so they just take it as being an instruction, an admonition to go and sit like that. But that is not how it's to be understood.
Now we're sitting in different ways. Azita's probably sitting cross-legged and someone else has their legs on the ground. Someone may be sitting on the floor, different habits, different accumulations, but it doesn't make any difference at all to whether or not understanding is arising, because in truth, there is no person and there is no sitting. There are just different realities, different namas and rupas. So the development of sati and the development of panya, sati sampajanya, is what conditions the understanding of different realities, nothing to do with the posture at all.
Right. Yeah, I think it's quite clear now. Thank you very much. I mean, there's another part of our conversation where this part that I just mentioned about concentration, when I told him that concentration was one of the 7 universals, and that it was not, it could be, it will depend on the other mental factors, right? If it would be who's that right concentration or wrong concentration. And then he asked me, well, what about Dhamma samadhi, right? And then well, I think that Dhamma samadhi, well, oh no, it's because I told him that's why concentration is not a factor for enlightenment or something like that. That's what I said. And then he asked me, well, what about Dhamma samadhi? And then I was,
So like the samasati, it arises when there is a moment of awareness and understanding, and it develops along with the other path factors. Samavayama is another one. It doesn't mean that energy or effort, virya, has to be somehow separately developed. That path factor arises whenever there's a moment of awareness and understanding. And sometimes in the suttas, the Buddha singles out one factor or another for special mention. That doesn't mean that that doesn't detract from the fact that they arise by conditions and are developed when there is awareness and understanding. There are suttas that focus on energy, on samadhi, on sati, and on panya. But all the path factors have to be developed, so even the restraint factors.
so how can samadhi be developed to become a path factor if it's actually a factor that arises at every moment of consciousness?
Well, it doesn't have to be developed separately. it is a path factor automatically when there's awareness and understanding.
It's the
But
same
what's
as
the-
asking how sati or how panya or how virya can become enlightenment factors. It's when they develop to the degree with the development of satipatthana through the direct understanding of realities that they become powerful and they become enlightenment factors. But without the development of understanding, without the direct understanding of realities that appear now, then none of the factors can become bojjhangas, enlightenment factors. So as you said at the beginning, there is concentration, ekagata, cetasika, at each moment, kusala, akusala, vipaka, kiriya, arising with every citta. Now, if the citta is akusala, as it is most of the time, it's akusala concentration. When it's vipaka, moments of seeing or hearing, it's result concentration. So only at moments of kusala can it be kusala concentration, and only when there is understanding of reality can it become concentration of the path that develops on, so that so that eventually it becomes a bojjhanga.
And
my problem
So
here,
it develops, it's cultivated, but not anyone that cultivates it. And without understanding, there can be no knowing of when it is right or wrong concentration either. Sorry, Roti.
yeah, a little bit my problem here with right samadhi. I mean, it makes more sense, for example, with sati and panya, right? Because they are wholesome factors, inherently wholesome, right? So it makes sense to talk about that you need them for enlightenment. But it puzzles me a little bit, for example, concentration, because it's so common. I mean, it arises every moment of consciousness. So why is it important that to name it as a path factor, right? Samadhi.
these questions are a bit speculative. We know it is a path factor. And the very fact that concentration does arise with every moment of consciousness really kind of fits with the idea that it doesn't have to be separately developed. Because when there's any moment of awareness and understanding, there must be concentration. And the concentration at that moment is right concentration of the path. So do we have to go beyond that and say, well, why are there only 8 jetasikas mentioned as being path factors? Why aren't there 9 or 10? Or why not make it fewer? Too speculative. But I'd just like to go back to one of the earlier issues that you raised about the sutta that was referred to by your friend. Now, you mentioned it comes from Samyutta Nikaya, and I'm not sure which particular one. There's a whole Samyutta.
It's called Anapana Samyutta.
Yeah, I've got that.
In
yeah,
English
there are
yeah,
there are many suttas in that section.
Well, it's number 54. That's all it says here.
Okay.
It's just a picture he sent me. He sent me a picture.
Well, I will. I'm just because I'm quoting from number. That's the number of the Samyutta 54. But within that Samyutta, there are many suttas on Anapanasati. So I'm just referring to the first one in that section. And when you get past
it has like a subtitle which is called one thing.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the one I'm looking at. It's number 1 in that Samyutta. And
Yeah.
after setting out the situation that is being addressed, namely where there's a monk who has gone to the forest and has sat down with his back erect, straight and cross-legged and breathing in and out mindfully and so forth. It then goes on to say, he trains thus, quote, experiencing the mind, I will breathe in, experiencing the mind, I will breathe out, etc. And then the next paragraph, he goes on and it says, he trains thus, contemplating impermanence, I will breathe in. He trains thus, contemplating impermanence, I will breathe out, and so on. And it ends with saying, it is when mindfulness of breathing is developed and cultivated in this way that it is of great fruit and benefit. So that reference to contemplating impermanence, there's a footnote here in the Bhikkhu Bodhi translation, which says this: contemplating impermanence, aniccanupassi, is contemplation of the 5 aggregates as impermanent, because they undergo rise and fall and change, or because they undergo momentary dissolution. This tetrad, this section of the sutta, deals entirely with insight, unlike the other 3, which can be interpreted by way of both serenity and insight.
Which other 3? What 3 is he mentioned? Is he referring
The
to?
preceding sections of the sutta.
I see, right. And in that sutta, he also mentions dukkha and anatta, or only anicca?
Let me have a look.
Yeah, don't worry.
Contemplating after impermanence, it's contemplating fading away, contemplating cessation, contemplating relinquishment, those 3 things, those 4 things. But the point is, Roti, that according to the commentary book, it's all about insight at this point, not at the beginning. At the beginning, it's about the bhikkhu who has developed mindfulness of breathing as object of samatha. But here the Buddha is showing how that bhikkhu can also develop insight.
And here, I think here is where the misunderstanding of that you need to develop the mindfulness of breathing before, right, in order to be able to develop insight. Misunderstanding the sutta, which, right?
That's right, because that interpretation isn't supported by the rest of the Tipitaka. It's only when you read these suttas as talking about an admonition that you are led to that kind of interpretation. But it's not easy to see. As you can see, we've had to discuss it at some length, but when you go into it carefully and consider the commentaries and the language of the sutta itself, then it's consistent with what we read elsewhere in the Tipitaka.
I think there needs to be like a very wide study of the Tipitaka in order to understand that, because if you just base yourself on the sutta itself, it can lead to a lot of misunderstandings. Right?
Absolutely.
Roti, the thing is that it's understandable that anyone who reads anything reads it with attachment and wanting something out of it. So it's a very special, unless we've heard the Dhamma, for someone to read the suttas with the understanding that it's for understanding, not to get something, not to do something. That's for us. I mean, we wouldn't know that if we hadn't heard the Dhamma and understood it, right? To some level. So it's normal. So I don't think it's already there. All the explanations, everything is there. Just that the approach is wrong from the beginning.
Yeah, and that's usually like what the common ignorant person approach everything to life, right? He wants to get something out of it. He wants,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
And this is why the Buddha taught about the right path and the wrong path. And when we read in the Abhidhamma texts about the nature of concentration in a lot of detail, the characteristic and everything is just the same, but one is right and one is wrong. One develops with right understanding and one develops with wrong understanding, and the strong idea of self taking one further and further away from the right path. So that's why at the beginning we were smiling when you mentioned the name of the place, Sati, meditation and astrology, because straight away it's clear that concentration is being cultivated,
We
perhaps.
cannot hear you
But-
anymore. I mean,
Can you hear me now?
oh,
Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you now. Oh, it says that my internet connection is not stable, so probably it's only my problem. I
So
didn't
any-
listen to you for a little while.
So anyway, concentration can be cultivated rightly or wrongly. When it's cultivated with right understanding, it leads to the development of the right path. When it's cultivated with wrong understanding, it leads to the wrong path, even though the characteristic of the Cetasika is the same, but one is right and one is wrong. One is kusala and one is akusala. So that's why there has to be a lot of considering about what sati is, what concentration is, and so on.
So what you said right now, that one is kusala and one is akusala. One what? One chetas. You're talking
One
about chetas.
kind of concentration. So when it is cultivated
Right.
with wrong understanding, it can be very strong concentration, like even when driving or when cooking, there can be strong concentration, but if it's with lobha, it's wrong concentration. Different from concentration that is developed with understanding and only becomes more apparent at stages of vipassana jnana, but it has to be there to develop to be enlightenment factor. So right from the beginning, there has to be the understanding of what reality is in life now. Just there's no sitting, no person, no monk, no forest. There are just different realities, different moments of seeing and hearing and thinking. So without understanding of what reality is at this moment, then the concentration and wrong understanding will take one further and further away from the right path.
Right. Thank you.
Like Ajahn said at the beginning, what is the purpose? Is the purpose understanding what appears now, or is it just to find something to do, to find a practice to follow with the wrong understanding?
Exactly. Yeah. That's when the idea of the wrong idea about what practice is, right, arises. Yeah.
And the bhikkhu who has developed samatha with mindfulness of breathing as object, he cannot develop insight without having heard the teaching and considered its meaning. So it's not as though samatha development, samatha with breath as object, leads to an understanding of what is needed for insight. They are different kinds of kusala. Each has its own condition for its development. So,
And as we read,
We cannot hear you, Sarah.
even when it's kusala concentration developed with in the samatha, calmness, leading up to jhana with breath as an object, without understanding of reality now, as we read in the commentaries, is actually the wrong path. So even when it's kusala and it's jhana, without understanding that they are just different dhammas, different namas, different rupas, which are not self, it is the wrong path.
Still is kusala just in the jhana sense or level, or right?
If there's no understanding of what appears now as reality, then no matter how great the kusala is, it's not the Buddha's teaching about dhammas as anatta. So in this sense,
Right.
it's the wrong path.
Right.
Ajahn, would you like to add more to any of Roti's points?
What do you think if anyone who doesn't have any understanding of Dhamma at all can understand all we are talking about?
Roti, are you there?
Yes, I'm
Question
here.
for you. Did you hear Ajahn question?
Yes, I heard it. No, if there's no understanding of Dhamma, no study of Dhamma, they cannot understand what we're talking about. They think we are just a little crazy.
So what about your friend? Does she have any understanding
Yeah,
to talk
he
about?
has. Actually, I would send him this video, and I think it will be very fruitful for our conversation, to continue our conversation between my friend and myself. Yeah.
That's why
Yeah,
we
he has.
talk about
He
the
has.
story.
He's a
About,
little bit obsessed or with certain things, but this will help him. Yeah, I think so. I hope so. Maybe more hope than anything else.
is
Well,
life natural?
Sorry, Ajahn, what did you say?
Is life normal and natural?
Is life natural, you said?
Normal, natural, or it's unnatural, it's abnormal. Each moment of life.
I don't know what you mean, Ajahn. Each moment of life being.
People like to change one's own way, not ordinary, not normal, into something different like concentration on breath, right?
Right.
So can that way condition understanding of whatever is now as so real? No one.
Yeah, I don't think it cannot help, because it's emphasizing the idea that there is someone who is beyond conditions, who can control.
And usually, if we don't read Tipitaka, the word of the Buddha, very careful, we miss some words like in the Anapanasati, it talks about natural, normal, usual moment because breath is there all the time, right? Unknown. Who knows breath now? Even is there. So understanding it or just want to experience it, what is true.
Wanting to experience is there's this intention or this greed for it, which probably blocks the possibility of actually understanding
And one
what
word
has.
in the Anapanasati is naturally, normally aware of breath by conditions. not at anyone's will.
Exactly.
So,
Whenever the
point.
breath is known by itself,
Mhm. Would you like to
there will be
understand
some understanding.
and rupa, which is breath? See, or anything now, no matter it's breath or not. What is the letting go of the
Probably
idea?
has. Looks much better.
Your microphone, John.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Ajahn. Yes.
Mhm. So we have to understand the purpose of the teachings of the Buddha to understand the truth. It doesn't mean that one has to develop jhana and then understand the truth. Whatever is there now can be understood with the level of jhana, calmness, or just as it is without calmness of such degree. So what is the point of just ordinary life? There is breath now. But why do we sit such in that manner? What for? No understanding at all. So how can it bring about the understanding of the truth of breath or not breath, anything now? It can be seeing or hearing, see. And what about the other suttas, not just only this sutta? Each sutta is the word of truth. Any sutta can condition the understanding of the truth when there is a wise considering about that word. For example, breath is so common, normal, daily. Why does one just want to experience that? Why not now when it's not breath? So can that thought condition right understanding of breath as it is? Because attachment is there, blind up the truth at that very moment. Because it's just wanting, craving for other things, not to let go, ignorance of that which is now appearing, even its breath. So that should
So
be
it's
right.
more,
Please
it's
go on.
more development of of greed more than anything else, right?
Mhm. When it's not known, what about the second noble truth? Hinder the development of letting go to experience Nibbana.
And the desire for results is so strong, and this really hinders the development. Such strong lobha leading to such strong wrong concentration because of the desire to get a result for me, not letting it go at all. The idea of self.
So no matter how much you talk about breath to your friend without understanding of the truth that it is this moment, because it has a reason and then fallen away instantly. If there is no understanding of that, impossible to understand because it's gone. It can be like this for any moment when there is no panya to see the benefit of understanding the most precious reality in the world of that which arises and falls away. Otherwise, we just learn for oneself to understand, to think that we understand that enough, but actually, as long as it's me or I understand, it's not understanding the truth of no one and no self. So, in order to help her, I think, help her to understand the most precious thing in life, right understanding of that which is there at that very moment. So you can talk with her like, what's your purpose? What would you like to know? Because now, do you know anything about this moment? Or would you like to understand it? Or don't you not interested in understanding it? It's useless to talk with the person who doesn't see the value or the worth of understanding the truth of this very moment, because they can have the Buddha's words in their mind more and more and more with the idea of I.
Right. I remember another part of my conversation with my friend when I think we were talking something about anapanasati, and he asked me, "So what did the Buddha do when he sat under the Bodhi tree?" And I told him, well, first of all, he had a meal, he ate, right? So that means he just became normal. And then the second thing, I mean, not the second thing, I told him, first of all, he had a meal and he stopped trying to get anything. And he just sat under the tree to rest.
Can anyone do, or it's only by conditions? Right now,
By
some
condition.
might see and some might hear and some might think by conditions, not concentrating on breath. Do not have breath as object by conditions, or having breath as object by conditions. So the condition for the Buddha's enlightenment, is it the same as Satriputa enlightenment? The object is different or the same, who knows? It can be anything when there is no attachment, letting go. Whatever is there can be object of understanding, because it's time for understanding to arise of such degree by conditions. And what is condition for right understanding? Without hearing the words of the truth, without considering carefully, wisely, can there be the understanding of that which is now appearing? We can say all the time different things appearing, no understanding. So, what is the best thing in life, in a moment? It's the understanding the truth of it. Otherwise, we don't talk about what we are talking now. Just to understand the truth and understand the different level of understanding, the intellectual understanding about seeing, hearing, and the moment when it's there, and right understanding, understand directly, because of conditions from the accumulation of understanding intellectually enough by conditions, who knows, it can be this moment or other moment or tomorrow, anytime, by conditions. Otherwise, what you help her is not just helping her to understand the truth of that very moment. So it depends on she would like to understand the truth or just want to follow the way it's taught, like it's said, but not understanding the truth, but to understand what is there. Even breath, when it's there, what is it?
Ajahn, what is the difference with understanding the truth and understanding what is there?
The word, what, please? Again, understanding the
Uh,
truth.
Understanding the truth or understanding what is there? Because now you said
Okay,
not,
where is the truth?
well, the truth is in what is there now.
So, understanding now is the understanding the truth now, right?
Right.
What is there now?
Um, um, well, many objects passing by,
I know.
arising and falling away. Yeah.
And we can be more specific than saying what is there, because what we take for what is there may not be the reality, may not be the conditioned realities of the present moment. So it's specifically understanding any conditioned reality that is appearing at the present moment. But I
you
would
have
just
to-
like to pick up on a comment that Ajahn made when she, I think, was suggesting that you personally may be able to help the other person by discussion rather than, for example, just sending the video, which may or may not be as useful as one-on-one you explaining your understanding. And it may need a number of sessions or meetings or chats before there is any, before the other person begins to have a clearer understanding of the meaning of the Buddha's teaching.
And I'd like to encourage, because so long as this person is interested, you do your best. I mean, because it's very rare to find people who are interested, and you can't have someone who's not interested.
Yeah, he's interested. That's why he sent me that picture of with the underlining. Yeah.
I could send you a picture with some underlining too that you may be able to send back.
Or you
But I
can,
mean, I think it has to do that he wants discussion. That's what I mean. He's discussing already about it.
Ruti, are you feeling he wants discussion or he wants you to understand his perspective? I've noticed that sometimes I can start talking to somebody who has some familiarity with Buddhism. They actually really don't. They do a lot of meditation and quote practice, like they have practices that go on, 7 days a week, different every day. And sometimes I've certainly found that people are not so interested in discussion and exchange of views or exchange of well, they're
Yeah.
talking about their interpretation, and they want to convince you.
Well, in this specific case, I think his underlining have to do with the things I said. For example, I said the Buddha. I told him the Buddha never admonishes anybody to go and meditate. So then he underlines the part of sitting cross-legged and etc. So he's like saying, what about this, right? And then I told him nothing can be developed. And then he underlines the part of the sutta which the Buddha is admonishing the monk to develop and etc. Right? So he's just making those simple comments. In this case, he's not right. And then he underlines the part about he knows, right? So I told him there's nobody who can know. So he's underlying, like saying, so why does here says he knows, right? So I think it's a mixture of both, probably, right? In a part, wanting to tell me about his view, and also about wanting to know why I said that, or I don't know. Yeah.
You'll know more as it goes on.
We think that it's the monk that can develop. What about now? Can you or I develop? And who is you? Who is I? Because at this moment, there is seeing. Is seeing you or I? Is hearing you or I? Is thinking you or I? Does the seeing last? Can it do anything? Can anyone make the seeing see a particular object? Can anyone decide what hearing will hear now? It has to come back to this moment, because if there's no understanding at this moment of seeing and how it arises by conditions, not anyone who can make seeing arise or make seeing see what one would like. However many times one says there's no self and realities are anatta, it doesn't mean anything. He will just keep underlining the bhikkhu develops and the Buddha said this. But what about at this moment?
Yeah.
Where is the monk now? Where is Roti now? Is there a
I think-
Roti that can decide what to think or can do anything? What is the reality of Roti at this moment?
Right. I think my friend has an idea, like the view that you need to be a monk. I think actually he has thought of becoming a monk, that you need to be a monk in order to develop understanding, right, or wisdom. He actually was telling this thing about monkhood and anapanasati being connected, right? And I couldn't really understand what he was saying. Actually, I remember telling him, like, what about Visakha, right? She was a lay woman and she was busy with all these children and grandchildren. I don't think she had the time to go and not even to do what nowadays we call like a 7-day workshop, right? and his answer was, well, there are exceptions. And I think that when we ended the conversation a little bit, because I thought there was no space really for conversation, that he was a little bit, yeah.
Roti, I
Just
think
the-
what Sarah is trying to emphasize here is that because it always is about this present moment. So if you, it's best to always come back to what's real now. And if the person is not interested, and instead he's just interested in the self doing something. So just pointing out to that person that this, for example, like Visakha was a lay person and all, it's not going to work. The only way he would understand that is when he understands that reality is now.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, he knows very well about Visakha. I mean, I was not explaining him who Visakha was. He knows about Visakha, right? But still, I mean, like, to what Sarah said right now, I think his answer would be, no, you need to be a monk or something like that.
And if there is the deep understanding of realities now as taught by the Buddha, can that be referred to as bhikkhu? What is the deep meaning of bhikkhu? Is it just the
Your
one who
question-
wears robes, or what about the meaning of bhikkhu as the one who has developed insight, understood realities,
Right, exactly.
like the one who
Well, I think-
wears robes but just follows the wrong path? Is that one a bhikkhu according to the Buddha?
Well, but I'm not sure if that definition, because there are many ordained people who have no insight, even from the time of the Buddha. I mean, being ordained and having insight don't come together. Huh? I mean, it's not the same thing. So, I mean, since the Buddha's time, many people ordained not precisely because they were going to become enlightened, will have any insight or anything, right?
That's why he said, in the deepest sense, the meaning of bhikkhu is the one who has understood the teachings, developed insight, regardless of what the sitting posture is, regardless of the dress, regardless of the place, because in reality, there are just different moments of seeing and hearing and thinking exactly the same, no matter whether ordained or not ordained, here or there. So
Yeah,
the one
but
that has
maybe
developed
that's
understanding is the real bhikkhu.
I'm not sure if that's the only meaning of bhikkhu, like somebody who has insight, or is, as you said, the deepest meaning of the term bhikkhu. Maybe
So
bhikkhu means
we had
just
the conventional
person.
meaning, the one that is ordained. This is one meaning, but the
Right.
deep meaning is the development of it, refers to the development of insight. Perhaps Ajahn will add more on this point.
What about just ordinary question like you send me something and what is that picture? Ask her about why she sent this to you and what is the meaning of the picture, to let her consider little by little. Can you answer for her?
Answer what, Ajahn?
When someone sent a picture to you for you to see what, can you answer just very simple like that? And when she said, can you say that what is seen is just different color, right? Before there is the idea of someone. Let her have some idea that she hasn't heard before. She heard about breathing, she heard about many things, but what about the truth of that which is seen? Even do you see me or do you see flower? What's the difference? Something like that. Just the food for considering about that which appears little by little. Whether she can begin to consider and understand the truth. If there's no understanding of the truth of even just what is there in daily life, it's impossible to understand the depth of that which is there as herself. Just to find out how much interest is there for herself or for the understanding the truth. Otherwise, we talk just 1 hour and 2 hours and more.
Yes.
What does she understand if she's here?
Right. It's like getting too much involved in all these things don't are not precisely connected to what is happening right now.
And then it just becomes like a debate or an argument about, well, this is what it says, and that's, oh no, that's what it says. But it has to come back to the considering about this moment, the understanding now, seeing. What does seeing sees? Does anyone see, or does it just arise and fall away and the seeing itself sees? And what is seen now? Are you sure it's a picture of trees and clouds, or what is seen at this moment? Is that what is seen, or is that thinking about it?
Or can we make the scene happen?
Right. Where is the self that can make it happen? Who can stop seeing at this very moment? So it has to be the considering, one's own considering, otherwise it just becomes like a dispute and like, can you do anything to stop seeing at this instant? By the time you think of doing something, hasn't the seeing fallen away already?
All right. So we're finishing in 5 minutes, actually.
I think Maeve is trying to add a comment. Come in, Matt, please, Maeve.
Hello, and hello, Ajahn and everybody. Look, it's just a very brief comment, just on the basis of how we've been talking this morning, and I really like the way Ajahn, her comments, Roti, to you just then about trying to make the conversation with your friend, like, don't make it combative, as Sarah said, but just make it like a friendly, normal conversation, with the understanding that she's actually seeking clarity, just like we all do in our own different ways and at different levels, and in a sense to respect that search for clarity, even though, it's the self that's seeking and all of that. But to understand at the beginning, it can be very easy to be confused. And in some ways, that confusion is an indication of a grasp of the subtlety and the depth of what is ahead in terms of understanding the Dharma. And so just keeping it, in a sense, low key, I suppose, and not trying to convey all that you have understood so far to someone who is just starting out. So just that, and everything that Sarah, you were saying about, sort of anchoring the understanding in the present moment, it's like that can be an understanding that that we are developing, but not necessarily always appropriate to share at that level with another person who is just starting to on this journey. So that's why I really appreciated Ajahn's response to just be gentle and I guess not to make your friend feel wrong. There's that difference between wrong view and being wrong. And sometimes that sense of being wrong can really dissuade people from going further, I think. So just an observation, really. But thank you very much for bringing up that example, because it's allowed us to explore some very interesting aspects. So thank you, and thank you, everyone. And thank you especially, Ajahn.
Yeah, my friend is not particularly new to this journey, and he actually thinks that he has the idea that I kind of just follow a teacher out of blind belief a little bit, one teacher, and then I change to another one, which
But she is new to right understanding, right?
Excuse me, Ajahn?
She is new to right understanding, to have right understanding,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
her own understanding too.
Yeah, because
Lucky.
somehow he has seen that I follow a few teachers, and all the teachers that I followed, I have said that that's the right one.
But not her own right understanding at all.
But you can say now you are following the teachings and not a particular teacher, because it's all about understanding properly what is in the teachings.
It's about understanding the truth, not following a teacher.
Yeah.
And even those monks who had attained jhana, if there was no understanding about the truth at this moment. It had to begin from the very beginning. So it's not a matter of how much someone has read of the text or how much Pali they've studied or how many years they've been called a Buddhist, but the beginning of understanding the truth about reality right now. So I think, like Maeve made a good point, it has to start very gently, because actually the person is new to beginning to consider about what reality is now as just Dhamma, not my seeing, my hearing, and so on.
Yes, it's definitely not about winning arguments, but I think you understand that, I'm sure.
Yeah, I remember also part of the conversation was about Shariputta. I told him that when I was trying to tell him that it was not about developing, that it was about a practice, right? Like a practice. I was trying to tell him that it was just about understanding. That understanding is what brings about the rest or whatever, right? So I mentioned when Sariputta meets Asaji, right? That he just by hearing those two sentences, he becomes a Sotapanna, right? And his answer was like, oh, this kind of teachings is what teachers can use in order like to have control over you or something like that. So I think
maybe we can, let's continue it next time. Thank you very much, Ajahn.
สวัสดีค่ะ
Swadika.